for all the people that came here to worship you today. Lord, may you instill upon our hearts and mind your word, your Heavenly Father, the meaning of your word. But most of all, Lord, may we not be just hearers of your word, but doers of your word. Lord, we commend this service unto you in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
We in a situation where Job is, and in the first chapter, I'll expound on that just a little bit to catch up. And of course, we find out that Job was a man who was very rich. He had a lot of substance. He had a lot of things. And one day, the old devil came up and goes up. Y'all know the devil can't go to heaven, right? Y'all know that. He's the accuser of the brethren. Who is it that tells on each and every one of us? It's the devil. He really does. He goes up, and that's kind of what happened here. So we find out that Job always prayed for his kids, prayed for his sons. He did everything that he was supposed to do. He continued to pray to God. He continued to do all the things that were well-pleasing to the Lord. But in verse 7, it said, in verse 6, and there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth and walking up and down on it. The Lord said to Satan, Well, hast thou considered my servant Job? There is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. And then Satan answered the Lord and said, Does Job fear God for naught or for nothing? Hast thou not made a hedge about him and about his house and about all he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands and his substance and increased the land. But forth put thy hand now and touch all he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And basically, the devil had tried Job. He recognized him. He'd been around him. He tried to get over that hedge, tried to get under the hedge, tried to break the hedge down. But because of that wall of prayer that Job continually had, the devil couldn't get to him. So they're in this discussion, and he said, well, look at all the blessings you bestowed upon him. I know he prays, and I know these things, but, you gave him all this stuff, and I guarantee you, if you take away all this stuff that he's used to having, he'll curse you to your face. He'll curse you. God says, all right, I get this little bit. I'll let you have your way with him. You can take everything he's got. I'll pull the hedge down. That don't sound right, does it? It really don't. But you see, I said last week, God, the stuff in this world, God knows it's just temporary. The stuff in this world, really, if we think about it, everything's made of particles from paper to us. We're all just small little particles of cells. Science proves all that. So really, it's just a bunch of dirt put together in forms of cars and put together in forms of chairs and put together in forms of people. But all that aside, God does love man. And God does love mankind. But we also have to understand that this flesh is old. This flesh will get old. This flesh will die. And because of all that, God, and the things out there in the world, God says, those things out there, a lot of that stuff is precious, There's a few of us in here like old cars, and some of us got an old truck. It's really precious. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But my wife's got one too, amen. But the thing more precious than our substance or the things we have is our soul. Because I say things in this world can be precious to us, but our soul is priceless. And I know God's thinking, you know what, you can do whatever you want to his stuff. Even let him have, death came upon his children, all that he had, to where within a matter of a day, he went from being the richest man and having children, having all this stuff, to having nothing. Absolutely nothing. Everything that came had been taken away. And after everything was taken away from him, he made this statement. And Job arose and rent his mantle or his clothes and shaved his head, which was a sign of grieving. He fell down on the ground and he worshiped. Most of us, that we would read it, if we fell down on the ground and we complained, that would be most of it. We fell down on the ground and we got mad. We fell down on the ground and we cursed God for letting all this happen. We fell down on the ground, we did this. But that's not what Job did. He fell upon the ground and he worshiped. It said, naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked I shall return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. He says, blessed be the name of the Lord. And in all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly.
Amen. Because
his faith wasn't in his stuff either. His real passion, even though he had children, had family, his real passion was with God. And we find that when the devil stripped him of all his material things, everything, his family, his wealth, everything that he had, he didn't fail. God knew his heart. Amen. God knows the heart. The devil has to try you. The devil tries all of us. Just like Jesus told Peter, he said, Satan hath desired to have you that he may sift you like wheat.
That's right.
Why does he sift it? Why do we run things through a sifter? In the old days, you would run it through there and there might be still a little bit of husk left or bugs or whatever it might be in your meal or whatever happened. And everybody in those days even had cabinets with sifters in them to clean that whatever they were fixing to eat. And that's what Jesus was telling Peter. Satan's going to run you through the sifter. And he said, I'm going to pray for you. And he goes, wait a minute. No, you don't have to worry about me. I'll follow you till the end. I'll follow you to death. I'll never deny you. And Jesus says, yeah, before the cock crows twice, you'll deny me 3 times, thrice. And he did. You see, Jesus knew his heart. Peter didn't even know his own heart. He thought he was more than what he was. But the devil did try him. And when the devil tried him and running through that sifter, out came open denial, cursing, and all kinds of things, and running away that Peter thought he would never do. But God knows the heart, but the devil will try us. He'll try us to see where our heart is and see what we have. And sometimes there's things in our life, that we put precedent over God. So sometimes the devil will feed us that one thing to keep us from God or God's house. Amen.
Wow.
But we go on a little bit further in chapter 2, and this is where we're going to start out. And again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them to present themselves before the Lord. I'm going to stop right there and just make a statement, because this is sometimes people saying, I'm going to put this in a Bible study one night. Some people say that these sons of God, they talk about the sons of God as working for the daughters of men. You'll find it earlier in Genesis and all. And they say these are fallen angels. And, but let me tell you something right now. I can never find a place in the Bible where a demon or a fallen angel is ever called a son of God. It's not. For those that call upon the name of the Lord, then he gave power to become the sons of God.
Amen.
They ain't calling upon the name of the Lord. I'm telling you, the demons, the devils, they ain't calling upon God's name. So we'll get that in it. But I'm just telling you, I don't know if these were like Enoch that had been translated and taken up, or whoever they were, but evidently they were present. But David also fell in, the devil, it says, also fell in among them. And then the Lord said unto Satan, from whence thou comest? I hear they're having a conversation again. And he said, from going to and fro, Moses says, in the earth, and walking up and down on it. And the Lord said unto Satan, how shalt thou consider my servant Job? Oh, there is none like him in all earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God, and escheweth evil. And still, notice what he says, he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without a cause. In other words, he's saying, oh yeah, devil, remember the bet that we had? Remember the bet that we had? Even though everything that he had got destroyed, everything was taken away from him. Ain't you worship me and praise me?
Amen.
An old devil. And Satan answered and said, skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath, he will give for his life. But put forth thine hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. In other words, he's telling him again. First time you can have it, all the substance will be gone, but you ain't going to touch your soul. Now he's saying, well, you can touch his body, but you can't touch his soul. You ain't touching his life. You're not going to do that. And see, that's where I tell people, sometimes I don't think we put enough emphasis on our soul. What's inside? We put the emphasis on the outside. That's what Satan's doing. Oh, he's going to put the emphasis on the outside. He's going to put the emphasis on the body. You touch his body, you make him sick or whatever, and he'll curse you to thy face. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job. Listen to this. Satan did this. He smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his feet unto his crown. And he took him a potsherd, in other words, a scraper, to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thy integrity? She says, curse God and die. She was sick too. She had it. Here she's watching him, man. She's part of his life too. She had all this stuff. She had all this stuff at her disposal too. And now all that's gone, all the kids are gone, and now her husband's sick. You know what? She's mad. Not only mad with him, but she's mad at God. And she says, curse God and die. My mother, we were talking a little bit last night. And is my mom in here? Thank you, Jay. We were talking a little bit last night. And she said that there was 5 of us. And that her and my real father got killed in a car wreck when I was 5. And I remember some when I was before then. I went to like a Christian daycare. I do remember that. But if none of y'all know me, my memory's not that good. But anyway, she said that we went to church and we did everything right. We paid our tithes. We did everything right. And she said when you were 5 years old, your brother was 3. The rest of the kids, 14 down. He got killed in a car wreck. And I was left all alone. And she said, if I tell you I didn't get mad at God, she said, I'd be lying. She said, I really got mad at God. She said, because here I was. I had done everything that I thought I was supposed to do. I had done everything that the Bible said to do. I paid my tithes. I went to church. I was raising my kids in church. And then I lose my husband. And I'm left all alone with 5 kids to raise. She said, I was mad at God. She said, I didn't like it. She said, and I resented him. And she said, that's one thing that got me out of going to church and got me away from God and got me out of his presence was my anger that God had taken my father from her. But I remember, and she must have, and then she told me that one time that after he had died, that there was the minister, one of them started coming around and started hitting on her. And she said that just turned my gut even more away from the church. Because she said, I didn't see anything real in it. But I remember, and this was years later. This is probably, she'd maybe been in her late 60s at this time. And I guess she had this resentment. Because my wife would go over and talk to her about Jesus. And she'd get mad. And she said, well, if I pray to God. I don't pray to Jesus. She said, I pray to God. She, get out of here with your Jesus. Like. And that's why I said when people are mad at God, there's something that has happened in their life.
That's right.
That has brought hurt. That has brought pain. Or somebody has inflicted hurt or pain in their life, and somehow God got the blame for it. When we find out the devil was the cause of all this, but what did his wife say? Curse God and die. Never one time rebuked the devil. We find in the Garden of Eden, the devil come up, tempted Eve through the serpent, and goes all the way down, and finally God goes to Adam. God goes, what's the woman you gave me? She goes, well, it's the serpent that beguiled me. But nobody ever put the blame on the devil. We find out the devil is cause of all things. He hates us with an extreme prejudice and extreme hatred. But to finish up my story about my mom, I preached this message on the ascension of Jesus to the Mount of Olives, which was a pretty deep message, and I really didn't know if it would go over most people's heads. So after I got through preaching it, I looked down, and she's down at the altar. Not only at the altar, but we had about 4 steps. She's up on the altar, and my cousin had died. And I'm figuring kind of sarcastically, she would come to church some when I had started pastoring and to support me. But I'm thinking, well, I guess she's down here praying to her God for my cousin. That's what I'm thinking. But I said, let me slide over there and find out what's really going on. And I went over there and she was crying. I said, Mom, you okay? She said, I never understood the gospel until now, the true gospel.
Praise the Lord.
And she said, I just asked Jesus Christ into my heart. And she said, I'm shaking so bad I can't walk. She said, could you help me back to my pew? You see, that's a real conversion. That's a true conversion. That's something that God himself revealed to her. That's something where God healed that hurt that she had been carrying all those years. That hurt that was inside, the hurt that the devil had inflicted. What happened Well, there was two kids speeding, and they ran across the center line, run across the median, and hit my daddy head on, killed him instantly. A bad tragedy. And tragic things happen in our life, they do. And we wonder, where's God at? Why can't God stop this? Why don't God stop this? Because you know what? If we'd all get right down to it, God just made a way for us to escape all this. Unfortunately, we have to die in the end to escape to get to go to heaven. But this world's cursed. When sin came into this world, it cursed everything.
That's right.
It's running a course right now of destruction. And I can tell you, even in your own life, if you allow sin into your life, it will run a course of destruction. Just like sin has come into this world and is running a course of destruction. This world, God says, one day will not even be able to stand, and therefore He'll destroy everything in this world. Because it says it's not worth saving. The only thing worth saving is your soul. It's who you are. And God leaves us here on this earth to endure hardships, to endure afflictions. And a lot of times, I guarantee you, we'll find out, and maybe I'll get to the end of this story, maybe in a week or so, about where Job ended up. But let's move on a little bit further. His wife says, "Thou still remain thy integrity? Curse God and die." But he said unto her, "Thou speakest as one foolish woman speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God? Shall we not receive evil?" And all this Job did not sin. And when Job's three friends heard of this evil that was come upon him, they came everyone to his own place. And we find out as they came, the appointment to come together, mourn with him and comfort him. And when lifted up their eyes afar off, they knew him not. He was eaten up so bad with boils, they didn't even recognize him. And they lifted up their voice and wept. And they rent everyone his mantle and sprinkled dust upon their heads toward heaven. And they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days, 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was great. Was he grieving? Oh yeah, he was grieving. Was he hurting? Yeah, he was hurting. I mean, he lost everything. He lost his family. He lost his wealth. He lost all that in one day. And I hear people today, and I'll tell you, this world we live in is tough. And we have tough times. And I always just think to myself, man, I went through some tough times. And man, I got Jesus. I mean, when I tell you I got saved at 27, when I sold out at 33, it changed everything. I would say you could be cutting my legs off, and I could still glorify God, and that was the difference. I was happy, even though I had lost pretty much everything I had. Man, there was a peace. Once I really surrendered to God, there was a peace that came. There was something where, you know what, the stuff in this world didn't really matter. What mattered was my relationship with God.
Amen.
And if we find out in Job, even Job with his health being bad and the things gone in his life, what really mattered to him was a relationship with God.
Amen.
But we find out right now, man, he's in deep depression. He's in deep sorrow. He doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't understand why this happened. And I can imagine in some ways, even though he glorified God, he probably had a little bit of Jesus Christ when he was on the cross saying, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" He probably didn't feel like God was around, even though God was right there.
That's right.
He probably didn't feel like God cared about him anymore. And he probably started questioning himself, but then he starts thinking back, well, you know what? I'm doing everything right. Well, let me just tell you something in your life, because this is why I came. I got to a point where I had lost everything, sleeping on the floor. I was upset. I was mad at God. I said, this ain't fair. This ain't right. It was, I was blaming other people for my situation. And Jesus Christ came to me, and I didn't have him. I was down there. I was all alone, no TV or nothing. I'm talking to him like I'm talking to y'all. And I said, this ain't right. I said, I've been lied on. All this stuff's happened. I feel like I'm a victim, And Jesus says, you know what? He said, I felt the same way. He said, they lied on me, brought me to court, lied and lied and lied. He said, they didn't even prove none of it. He said, I wasn't even found guilty, but yet then they beat me. He said, they beat me unrecognizable. He said, you ever took a beating like that? I said, no. He said, then, man, they spit on me and snatched my hair out, my beard out. He said, you ever had your beard pulled out? I said, no. He said, and then, he said, they beat this crown of thorns on me and mocked me. And he said, then, they assembled this 300-pound cross and proceeded to make me drag it through the streets. 300 pounds after I've been beaten. Can you imagine? I was thinking, well, they took a beating, had dragged across. Can you imagine dragging something like that on open wounds? I mean, I tore my finger up. I ground my place with my finger. That thing is so sore. I couldn't imagine something like that. My bones and my back showing, and the meat just tore all to pieces. Because, I mean, when they would whip you, I mean, they whipped him to kill him just about it, you know. And he said, not only that, when I was down to drag it through the streets, he said that people was spitting on me and cursing at me. He said, you ever had anybody walk through the streets, beat up and everything, people spitting on you and cursing at you? I said, no, I ain't never suffered that. He said, then when I got up on the hill, he said, they nailed me to that cross. He said, you ever been nailed to a cross? I said, no. I started realizing that my situation wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. I started thinking about what he had to endure. And he was innocent. You could have probably found a little bit of guilt on me, but he was innocent. He said, then they pulled me up in front of the whole city, and they stripped me naked and humiliated me in front of the whole city. He said, you ever been humiliated like that? I said, no, I've never been humiliated like that. He said, you know what I told him? This is what set me free. I said, yeah, I know what you told them. You said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I realized that point that the people who persecuted, who hated me, were just puppets from Satan.
That's right.
Satan was using them to make my life miserable. And I was like Adam. I blamed somebody else. I never really turned around and blamed the devil. I was blaming other people for my faults. And then when I realized when God showed me what was going on, I did the hardest thing I could ever do. I didn't think I could do it. I started praying for those people. That was the hardest thing I ever had to do. Because, you know what, I was like Jonah. These people don't deserve prayer when he had to go to Nineveh. They don't deserve your blessing, God. They don't deserve your forgiveness. They deserve your wrath. You know what I mean? I want your wrath on these people. But God says, no, you got to forgive them. Just like I forgive those who crucified me. Forgave those who sinned, past, present, future. Forgave all of us. And when I did, it's like this weight came off of me. It's like all that anger, all that hatred, and all that resentment that I was holding in was gone.
That's right.
And you know what God replaced it with? Joy.
Amen.
Happiness. And that's why I say I got to that point where I didn't think about my circumstances. I didn't think about my situation anymore. All I was concerned about was my relationship with God. And even though I hadn't got anything restored back to me, even though I had lost pretty much everything, you know what? I was happier than I'd ever been. Saved at 27, sold out. That was the difference. That was the difference. We find out in this story right here, it goes on. And do you know what? Finally, when Job's buddies finally decided to talk to him, you know what they said to him? What'd you do? We know you sinned. We know you did something. God, go on and confess your sins and get it out of the way. So God can go on and forgive you again. God can move on. I didn't do nothing. Quit lying. We know you did something. This wouldn't happen to you. But that's our first thought. You know what I'm saying? I always say to my wife, and something I always say, you got to start living right. She said, man, she lives pretty good. That's that go back on me. But I'm just making a point this morning that we talked about expectations. Job's expectations when he prayed, his expectation was some of my kids might have sinned or something, so I'm going to say extra prayers for them so God will protect them. His prayers were for everything, and God did protect him, and God put a hedge about it. But you know what? There was one thing about all that was the most valuable thing of all that Job probably didn't even realize that he had was his incredible faith. His incredible ability to endure. Put through the test. His incredible ability to hold on to integrity, to hold on to things, to not curse God, to not blame God, to not blame anybody, but realize that the power of what he's saying, of everything, even though he had lost everything, he never lost his relationship with God. Did he question it? Yeah, he ended up questioning it. Did he wonder why? Yeah, he wondered why. Was he depressed? Yeah, he went through all that stuff. But I think I'll preach next week about the other end, how he came out. Maybe you're sitting here today Man, maybe you've been through some troubles and trials. Maybe you've been wronged by somebody. Maybe there's some things that you can't get, you don't think you can get past. Maybe there's something happened to you and you're blaming God for it. Let me tell you something. We serve a good God.
Amen.
We serve a loving God. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. You know why? Because sin is in this world. As long as sin's in this world, it's going to kill, it's going to steal, and it's going to destroy, and Satan's going to be behind every bit of it. When he fell from grace, you got to understand, when he fell out of God's presence, there's one thing, only one thing, not even the angels have this, it's made in God's image. So the devil hates everything about God, about heaven, about his angels, but most of all, he hates his creation. And that's who we are. So as long as he's loose, as long as he's rampant, if we're not prayed up, we find out there was a hedge put about him, a wall of prayer. If we're not prayed up, if we're not looking, if we're not on guard against the devil, if we're not strengthening ourselves with God's word, and the Bible says the joy of the Lord is our strength, and that's our relationship with him. And that is the only thing that kept Job from falling, was daily his relationship with God. And I can encourage you to do anything. Number one, learn how to forgive. The devil hates that. Number two, we got unconfessed sin sometimes. He likes that. That keeps us in bondage. That keeps us something there. Number three, we need to pray a wall of prayer about us and our family in everything we do. And number four, trust God because he has a plan for your life. And the greatest plan that he has is a plan of salvation. Maybe you're in here this morning, you don't know Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. Maybe you're in here this morning and you say, well, I don't know. I had a girl one time, she said, my daddy was a preacher. I said, that don't count. She said, I got baptized when I was 8. I said, you just got wet. I said, have you ever asked God to forgive you and had a confess a personal relationship with Jesus Christ? She said, no. And I said, well, then you're not saved. Had a guy this week, 75 years old, and never, as far as they know, hadn't gone to church, never talked about God, never talked about Jesus, and he's in bad shape. And I went up there to talk to him and kind of got his confidence a little bit. I like the fella. He's a car guy. I'm a car guy. We got talking about old cars, motors and things. He loosened up some, you know, because sometimes people get uncomfortable. And I built a relationship with him. Did I present the gospel to him? No, not then. Because I knew I had to build that relationship. Went up there the second time, got talking to him. Finally, God said, all right, ask him. I said, have you been saved? He said, no, never been saved. I said, would you like to get saved? And he started crying. He said, yeah. He said, I really do. I really do. And I led him to the Lord's Prayer. You see, he's 75 years old. I led the lady not too this year alone. Your mom, 84 years old. It's not too late. But the one thing I can encourage you, this is the devil, this is his master plan. I'll say this real quick in closing. 3 demons, they were trying to concoct a plan on how to keep people from coming to Jesus Christ. One of them said, well, we'll just tell people there is no God. The devil goes, no, it ain't work. He said, I've tried that before. That don't work. He said, it works for some of them, but it's just not a good thing because there's too much in creation around here to prove that there is a God. The other one says, well, we'll just tell them there ain't no hell, there ain't nothing to fear, no reason to get saved. There's no repercussion for it. The devil goes, nah, he said, I tried that too. It's worked on some of them, but he said, it's just not a good plan. He said, we need a good plan. The third one says, I know what we'll do. We'll just tell them to put it off. Just put it off. You got plenty of time. You ain't got to do it right now. The devil said, that'll work. And he's used that plan, and it's the best plan that he's ever had. He don't tell you not to believe it. He don't tell you to fear hell. He'll just tell you don't do it. Just put it off. You got time. Let me tell you, friend. When that fella the other day, when he accepted Christ, and I seen his heart break, and I seen those tears came, man, it just filled my soul with a gladness. And I know it filled God's soul with a gladness. And I know it filled heaven's soul with a gladness because you know what? His body might not be here much longer, but his soul was going to be eternally in heaven.
Praise the
And that's
Lord.
what you can have today. You just surrender yourself to God. We're going to give an invitation for you to do that. You can ask God to forgive you anywhere. You could be down the road, riding around in a car, laying in your bed, here at church. But I can tell you right now, friend, if you're here this morning and you haven't done it, come down and I'll pray with you. I'll lead you to the Lord in prayer. It's real simple. You don't have to do anything but ask forgiveness from God. Accept Him as your Lord, Savior. Believe in your heart that He raised from the dead, just like He's going to raise you in those last days. Raise your soul. And the Bible says, and you shall be saved. It's just that simple. So right now, band plays. I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to let the Holy Spirit draw, convict, and I'm going to let Jesus save. Amen.